You can take your Bibles and go to Psalm 95. We've been looking at Moses and the Exodus, and last week we saw them coming out of Egypt and being pursued by Pharaoh and his army, and God parting the Red Sea for them. They went across on dry ground, and then Pharaoh and his army were wiped out as that sea came crashing in on them. Here again, God took care of them. And yet, although God had already done all of these things for them back in Egypt to get them out of that land in the first place, although God had already proved himself to them in numerous ways, when they were in that situation, they doubted God. They didn't believe God. And that is the first of many incidents, 10 in number, where Israel, God says, tested him or tempted him. In Psalm 95, God talks about this, and these are verses that are quoted also in Hebrews. Psalm 95 and in verse 8. Harden not your hearts, as in the provocation, as in the day of temptation in the wilderness. When your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my work. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, it is a people that do err in their heart, and they have not known my ways. And to whom I swear in my wrath, they should not enter into my rest. This is referring back to what happened in the Exodus. What happened with Israel when they left Egypt and when they were out there in the wilderness. We'll go to Exodus 14. No, actually Exodus 15. Exodus 14 records that record that we looked at before the parting of the Red Sea, and that is the first of the 10. The first of the 10 times when Israel did not believe God. The next one is in Exodus 15 and in verse 22. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. So if you remember last week, after the Red Sea was parted, they said, boy, now we know that God is with us, and we know that he will take care of us. This is 3 days later. This is 3 days later. And 3 days later, they get to a place, and they don't find water when they must have been expecting to. Verse 23. And when they came to Marah, they could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore the name of it was called Marah, which means bitter. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, what shall we drink? What are we going to do? We don't have any water. And he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statue and an ordinance, and there he proved them. And said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. So God takes care of them in this situation. He tells Moses just what to do, to throw this tree into the water. Moses does it, and now the bitter water is made sweet. It's made able to be drank. Let's go to chapter 16. Well, let's see how long this lasts. 16 verse 16. Chapter 16, verse 16. This is the thing which the Lord hath commanded. No, back up. Verse 6. And Moses and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel, At even then ye shall know that the Lord hath brought you out from the land of Egypt. And in the morning then ye shall see the glory of the Lord, for he hears your murmurings against the Lord. And what are we that ye murmur against us? I got to back up farther. Verse 4. I start at the beginning. Verse 1. And they took the journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came into the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. So now this is the 15th day of the second month. Remember, the first month is when they left. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them, Would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full, for ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. It would have been better off for us to die in Egypt with full bellies than to come out here and starve to death. This is what they're crying about now. Then said the Lord unto Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you. And the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or not. And it shall come to pass on the 6th day that they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moses and Aaron said unto the children of Israel, At even, then ye shall know that the Lord hath brought you out from the land of Egypt. So this is what they tell them to. This is what God tells them to do. That he's going to cause bread to rain from heaven. The bread is known as manna. And it's funny because it's actually, the word manna means, what is it? So they never really come up with a name for this. You know, the best they kind of do is, we're going to go get some more of that whatchamacallit. Okay? That's what we're going to do. We're going to get some more of that whatever it is. And that's what manna means, whatever it is. Okay? Whatever it is, that's what we're going to get. They're instructed that every day when they go out, there will be enough for that day. And to not eat more, to not gather more than what they need. And on the 6th day, they're going to gather twice as much. And that will take care of them on the Sabbath day, so they don't have to do any work on the Sabbath day of gathering the food. So that's what God tells them to do. All right, now we'll skip down. Verse 10. And it came to pass, as Aaron spake unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmuring of the children of Israel, speaking unto them, saying, At even ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and ye shall know that I am the Lord your God. And it came to pass that at the even the quails came up, and covered the camp. And in the morning the dew lay round about the host. So this first time, not only do they get manna, but they also have some quails to go with it. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoarfrost on the ground. And when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, It is manna. For they knew not what it was. And Moses said unto them, This is the bread which the Lord hath given you to eat. And then he gives them the instruction. This is the thing the Lord hath commanded. Gather it every man according to his eating. An omer for every man according to the number of your persons. Take ye every man for them which are in his tents. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered, some more, some less. If you had a bigger family, you gathered more. If you had just you and the wife, you gathered less. And when they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that had gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating. And Moses said, Let no man leave of it till the morning. Don't leave anything left of it. Notwithstanding, verse 20, they hearkened not unto Moses, But some of them left of it until the morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moses was wroth. He was mad with them. They didn't listen to him. They didn't follow the instruction. They gathered more. I suppose they didn't trust God, and they thought they better just go ahead and store some away. And it just stank. It bred worms, and it stank. Verse 21, and they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating, and when the sun waxed hot, it melted. So that failure to believe God and follow his instructions is the third of the times that they disobey God, that they tempt him. Let's look at verse 22. And it came to pass that on the 6th day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. And he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye shall bake today, and seethe that which ye will seethe, boil it in other words. And that which seemeth which remaineth over, lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up to the morning, as Moses bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. So at other times when they tried to gather extra, it rotted. But on the Sabbath, when they gathered extra for the next day, that did not. That's how God took care of it. And Moses said, Eat that today, for today is the Sabbath unto the Lord. Today you shall not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather. What were they just told to do? Not to go out on the Sabbath to gather. What did they do? Some of them go out on the Sabbath to gather, and they found none. And the Lord said unto Moses, How long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws? See, for that the Lord hath given you the Sabbath, therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place, let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. So this was the next one, the fourth of the temptations. Or rather, the fifth one, rather. Go to chapter 17, verse 1. And all the congregation of the children of Israel, journeying from the wilderness of sin after their journeys, according to the commandment of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. And they said, well, that's no problem, because we've been in this situation before, and we saw God take care of us, so we won't freak out this time. We'll trust God. No. Do you think, would you bet on that? Verse 2. Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep not trusting God? And the people thirsted there for water. And the people murmured against Moses, and said, Wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt, to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? This is kind of getting to be an old song with them, isn't it? And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, What shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me. They're ready to kill me. Verse 5. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go on before the people, and take with thee the elders of Israel, and thy rod, wherewith thou smotest the river, take in thine hand, and go. Behold, I will stand before thee upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, and that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. And he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord amongst us or not? So this then is the sixth of the temptations. Look at chapter 32. Well, we go a little while here anyway. Chapter 32. In chapter 32, this is the time where Moses goes up into the mount to receive the law. Chapter 32, verse 1. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, he went up there, and he'd been up there for a while now. The people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what has become of him. We don't know what's happened to Moses. He's been gone a long time. So we need some gods to go before us. We need some other gods. We want you to make us the gods that we worshipped back in Egypt. You know, they had all kinds of false gods, all kinds of idols back in Egypt. And the fact that Israel even thought about going back to that, and it asked Aaron to do this, to make them gods, indicates to my mind that this was not a new practice to them, and it explains, in my thinking at any rate, I can't prove this, but I think it's indicative of why they were in slavery for so long in the first place. We'll skip down, go to verse 7, 32:7. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go, get thee down, for thy people, which thou broughtest up out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. I kind of like that, where God's now calling them, Moses, your people. It's kind of like the parent that says, Do you know what your son did? Well, that's kind of like what God's doing here with Moses. Your people have corrupted themselves. Verse 8, They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Unbelievable, isn't it? That they're worshiping this golden calf that they made, and saying, This is what brought us up out of Egypt? Verse 9, And the Lord said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now, therefore, let me alone, that my wrath may weigh hot against them, and that I may consume them, and I will make of thee a great nation. I've had it, God said, I've had it with these guys. I'm just going to wipe them all out, and you'll start a whole new nation. We'll start a whole new nation with you and your offspring. I'm going to just start all over again. And Moses besought the Lord his God and said, Lord, why doth thy wrath wax hot against thy people, which thou hast brought forth out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Wherefore should the Egyptians speak and say, For mischief he did bring them out, to slay them in the mountain, and to consume them from the face of the earth. Turn from thy fierce wrath and repent of this evil against thy people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, thy servants, to whom thou swearest by thine own self, and said unto them, I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of I will give unto your seed, and they shall inherit it forever. And the Lord repented of the evil which he thought to do unto his people. It looks like, when you read it here, that, God just kind of lost his temper and Moses calmed him down. But, what's going on is the man of God is making intercession for the people. And it's expressed in this way, and maybe that's kind of God had to have that conversation to not have Moses want to give up on him, But Moses' intercession, his prayer, is what enables them to continue to go on. And it's maybe the first, but it's not the last time that Moses has to do that, has to stand in the gap, it says, for God's people. Let's go to Numbers chapter 11. That was the 7th. We'll look at the 8th one here in Numbers chapter 11, verse 4. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a-lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, and the cucumbers, and the melons, and the leeks, and the onions, and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes. So now they still got food to eat, but they're just sick of it. They're sick of eating manna, and they're thinking about, man, remember when we were back in Egypt and we were eating hamburgers and fries and pizza? We were having, great salads and all that good stuff, and now we got nothing to eat but this stuff, and we're sick of it. We're sick of it. And the manna was as coriander seed, and the color thereof is the color of bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it and ground it in mills, or beat it in a mortar and baked it in pans and made cakes out of it. And the taste of it was as the taste of fresh oil. And when the dew fell upon the camp at night, the manna fell upon it. Then Moses heard the people weep throughout their families, every man at the door of his tent, and the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly. Moses also was displeased. And Moses said unto the Lord, Wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant, and wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people on me? In other words, Moses is saying, God, what did I ever do to deserve this? What did I ever do to deserve all these people? I didn't want them. I don't want these guys. I'm tired of taking care of them. They're a pain in the butt. Verse 12, have I conceived all these people? Are these my kids? I didn't, they're not my kids. Why am I responsible for them? Have I begotten them, that thou shouldest say unto me, carry them in the bosom, as a nursing father beareth the sucking child, unto the land which thou swearest unto their fathers? Now Moses has had enough. Now Moses is saying, God, I don't want these guys. I want to just be done with it. And you can't blame them. Verse 13, when should I have flesh to give unto all the people? Where I'm going to get food for all these guys? For they weep unto me, saying, Give us flesh that we may eat. We want meat. I don't have meat to give them. I'm not able to bear all this people alone because it's too heavy for me. This is too much for me to handle by myself. And if thou deal thus with me, kill me. Just kill me. You've heard people say that. If that's it, somebody just shoot me. That's what Moses is saying. God, just shoot me. Just shoot me if I've got to keep putting up with these guys. If I have found favor in thy sight, and not let me see my wretchedness. I don't want to do this. And the Lord said unto Moses, Gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people, and the officers over them. And then bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there with thee. And I will come down and talk with thee there, and I will take of the Spirit which is upon thee, and I will put it upon them. And they shall bear the burden of the people with thee, that thou bear it not thyself alone. Isn't that great? Yeah. You talk about God not allowing somebody to be put in a situation beyond what they can handle. Here Moses, he really has had enough. And God says, I don't blame you, Moses. You're right. This is too much for any guy to handle. Get 70 of the leaders, 70 of the people that you know are leaders, and have them meet. And I'm going to take of that same spirit that I've given you, and I'm going to put it on them so that they can rightly make decisions and lead over them as well. Where did I leave off? 18 is where you okay. And say unto the people, Sanctify yourselves against tomorrow, and ye shall eat flesh, for ye have wept in the ears of the Lord, saying, Who shall give us flesh to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt, wherefore the Lord will give you flesh, and ye shall eat. Ye shall not eat it 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, nor 10 days, nor 20 days, but even a whole month, until it come out of your nostrils. You want meat to eat? I'm going to give you meat to eat. You're going to be sick. This is going to be like coming out of your ears, out of your nose, everything. Because ye have despised the Lord which is among you, and I have wept before him, saying, Why came we forth out of Egypt? And he goes on, and this is what happens. They get quail. It says that, go over to verse 31. And there went forth a wind from the Lord, and brought quails from the sea, and let them fall by the camp, as it were a day's journey on this side, and as it were a day's journey on the other side, round about the camp, and as it were 2 cubits high upon the face of the earth. So, like a day's journey in different directions, and piled. That 2 would be like about 3 feet high, 3 feet deep of quails. Wow. And they gather it. They might have been ready to go back to the manna after that. Look at Numbers chapter 13. Numbers 13, we're up to the last of the temptations. Numbers 13 and verse 17. And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said unto them, Get you up this way southward, and go into the mountain, and see the land what it is, and the people that dwell therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many, and what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they be that dwell in, wherein tents or strongholds. And what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether it be wood therein or not. And be of good courage, and bring of the fruit of the land. So they're right there on the edge of the land. They're right there where they could walk right in. And they choose, God tells Moses to pick one spy out of every one of the 12 tribes of Israel. And he's going to send these people in, these 12 men, into the land to check it out and to bring back a report. One man from each tribe to go in and take a look. We'll skip down. Verse 25. And they returned from searching of the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel. Verse 27. And they told him and said, We came unto the land wherein thou sent us, and surely it floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. It's a great land, you're right. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites, all these guys. Verse 30. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. Great. It doesn't matter that there are people there. It doesn't matter how strong they are. Let's go in because we can do it. Verse 31. But the men that went up with them said, We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, The land through which we have gone to search it, it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof, and the people we saw are as men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the son of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sights as grasshoppers, and we were in their sight. They said, We can't do it. They are too big, and they are too strong. And though Caleb and Joshua, 2 of the 12, give a good report, the people believe the 10 rather than the 2. They say, Nope, we're not willing to do it. And God says, Fine, then don't go. Then don't go. You won't go in. You're going to wander around instead until all of your generation drops dead in the wilderness, and then your children will go in. That's what happened. They wandered for those 40 years because they were afraid to go in and claim that land. They were afraid to claim that rest that God had provided for them. We have that rest when we believe God, when we trust Him. And that's our challenge, to believe God no matter what's going on, and He will always take care of us.